The Nintendo 64 is my favorite gaming system of all time. My Nintendo Switch is getting a lot of love lately and has been climbing the list every day for me. But nothing will ever top my Nintendo 64. I have way too much nostalgia for the thing. However, sometimes nostalgia can blind us. We may think back to certain games, think that they were incredible when we played them as kids, only to go back and realize that they weren't as good as we remembered. And so that is where this list comes into play. This is my list of Nintendo 64 games that I think hold up and are worth playing today, with or without nostalgia. Number 10, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Oh, Rare, you used to be the go-to developer for games back in the 90s. When I went to my local Blockbuster back in the day to rent a new Nintendo 64 game, I knew to look out for that R on the cartridge, as it was the seal of approval for gaming. Except with Conker's Bad Fur Day, because you couldn't find this game anywhere, or at least I couldn't. My theory is that the ESRB rating system made certain to plaster for mature audiences only all over the box to make sure that nobody mistook this for a kid's game. And because of this, it really limited the overall demand for the game, causing stores like Blockbuster to only carry it for a short time, if even at all. I didn't pick up this game until a few years after it came out, and I'm really glad I did. Conker is a very unique platformer, but not due to its platforming segments of the game, but rather the adult-themed humor that surrounds it. Conker swears like a sailor, drinks a lot, and uses firearms to deal with some of the furry enemies. The game itself is fun, but the major appeal of Conker, and why it's still worth playing, is the game's personality. I've never played another game quite like it. Number 9, Kirby 64. This is a very unique entry in the Kirby series, and honestly, my favorite Kirby game ever made. The game isn't too difficult, and it won't take you that long to 100% complete, but that's okay, as the Kirby games have always been about having fun with cute, lovable characters and gameplay that anyone can pick up. The big takeaway to this Kirby game, and what makes it stand out even today, is the game's main feature: combining copied powers. Normally in Kirby games, when you see an enemy, you suck them up and steal their power. But in this one, you can combine two enemy powers, creating a brand new power in the process. This really added a new element of depth and replayability to the game, as you're able to mix-match different power-ups to see which combination suits you best. Kirby 64 is also a 2.5D game, and because of this, it looks and plays really well, even on the 20-year-old Nintendo 64. In conclusion, Nintendo, please bring back combining in the next Kirby game. Please. Number 8, Rayman 2. Okay, so this one may be cheating considering it's not a Nintendo 64 exclusive, but I loved this game as a kid, and that's why it deserves to be on this list. This is an excellent platformer that will provide most gamers a bit of a challenge. Rayman 2 was the first time the armless freak transferred over to 3D, and all things considered, it was a pretty good transition. The experience is an overall positive one due to the gameplay, world design, and story. Also, Glowbox. Glowbox is probably the best form of comic relief to come from a video game sidekick, or at least anyone that I've played. I mean, just look at him. He's ridiculous. Rayman 2 offers a lot of variety in terms of its gameplay. You have your normal running and jumping levels, water levels, and flying levels, and the overall pacing of the game is really well done. The only thing keeping this game back is Rayman's movement. It's a bit dated, and while it's not game-breaking, I think that his movement comes with too much weight and not enough quick reactivity to the thumbstick. Rayman 2 is worth playing and owning, but if you are able to play a more updated version of it like on the 3DS, then you should probably stick to that version. Number 7, F-Zero X. Whoa, look at him go! Zippity-boo-bop! This is F-Zero, the hardcore, super fast, futuristic racer that you probably have already heard of. There haven't been many racers after this that have managed to pump up my adrenaline quite like F-Zero X. Allow me to explain. See that energy bar at the top of the screen? That's your turbo, and you are able to recharge it with the pink aura that's scattered throughout every track. And oh yeah, you know how I said that the energy bar is your turbo? Well, it's also your freaking health bar. So anytime you boost, get smacked by another racer, or stupidly bump into the wall, like me, your energy bar goes down. In addition to all of this, The hover cars are fast. Really damn fast. As the game runs at 60 frames per second, which you should definitely be able to tell if you've played any of the other Nintendo 64 games, as few of them were able to run at such a high frame rate. This game does not hold your hand either. It takes pure gaming skill and determination to earn first place in each track. All I have to say is that if you end up playing this game, good luck. Number 6, Star Fox 64. Star Fox 64 was the last great Star Fox game, which I think most of us can agree on. Star Fox Adventures was alright, but it was not a Star Fox game, and don't even get me started on Star Fox Zero.
Ew.
Ew. Anyway, this one we're talking about right now is awesome. It's a relatively short game that can be beaten in one playthrough, but the gameplay is so tight, so smooth, so fun that you'll probably want to play through it like 5 more times after. The main levels of the game are played in autopilot mode, allowing you to focus on shooting, flipping, and barrel rolling your way to the end of the level, where you are greeted to an all-range boss fighting mode. The all-range boss fighting mode is basically where you're given full control in a much smaller space to freely maneuver, allowing for the boss encounters to be much more strategic and intense than the regular enemy encounters. Also, while there are only 2 maps, the multiplayer for the game is surprisingly deep and a lot of fun with 4 people. Overall, I think it's safe to say that this is the definitive Star Fox experience. Number 5, Paper Mario. Damn, I love this game. Ooh! While it's no Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario is still an incredible RPG for the Nintendo 64, which I'm really happy to say because it's pretty much the only RPG on the system. I mean, there were others, but no. At any rate, let's start with the art design. It's gorgeous, and I honestly think that this is one of, if not, the best looking Nintendo 64 games. There were a lot of 3D polygonal games on the system, and it's really refreshing to see a game that didn't succumb to the pressure of the industry, telling them they had to make a realistic 3D game. It really just goes to show that sometimes less is more. Anyway, next, let's talk about the combat. It's a turn-based system with a twist. If you are choosing to jump on the enemy's head or hit them with a hammer, you are given a little timing window to rack up extra damage dealt, which adds an additional layer of skill that a lot of RPGs from this era did not have. You gotta play this game, because the Paper Marios they're making nowadays are completely different, and the bad kind of different at that. Number 4, Super Smash Bros. Mario punching Pikachu in the face. Still not convinced? Donkey Kong pimp slapping Kirby in the face body? Anyway, I absolutely love this series, just like any other gamer with a pulse. This version on the N64, the one that started it all, is the source of most of my multiplayer nostalgia from when I was a kid. For those of you who have been living under a rock for the last 20 years, Smash Bros. Is a game where you take control of a number of Nintendo icons and battle it out on the same iconic Nintendo-themed stages with some Nintendo-themed weapons thrown in the mix. While the game is a total treat with 3 other buddies all duking it out with you, the game also offers a satisfying challenge in the single-player game. And by beating the single-player game in a number of different ways, such as on hard mode with Pikachu, for example, you can unlock more fighters to play with. The reason this makes my list is because I firmly believe that all the Smash Bros. Games in the series are fun, unique experiences to be had. Every one of those games feels and plays differently, and each game has exclusive stages that can't be played on the other ones. Sure, Smash 64 isn't as pretty as the newest Wii U Smash, and it's not the fan favorite Melee, but it's definitely worth playing if you consider yourself a Nintendo fan. Seriously. Number 3, Banjo-Kazooie. Remember when we were talking about Conker's Bad Fur Day, and I kissed Rare's ass so hard that it sent them to the high heavens? Yeah, we're going back to it because this is the first Rare title that made me fall in love with the company in the 90s, and that game is none other than Banjo-Kazooie. Don't get it twisted, I thoroughly enjoyed the sequel Banjo-Tooie, but if you're making me pick between the first and second, I'm picking the original, with no questions asked. Banjo-Kazooie is one of the best 3D platformers I've ever played. Every level is extremely satisfying, and while I normally don't enjoy collecting in most games, it's so damn addicting in Banjo's adventure. The genius level design, music, and overall pacing of the game keeps you captivated until the very end. There really is never a dull moment. I loved this game as a kid, and I don't think I will ever grow out of it. Just like I don't think my fear of this thing will ever subside. Ugh. Number 2, Super Mario 64. Banjo-Kazooie may be one of my favorite 3D platformers, but this game is my number 1 favorite. Ever. Forever. Unless Super Mario Odyssey surpasses it, with which I would totally be okay with. Look, y'all, Mario Sunshine was great, Galaxy series was great, Mario 3D World and Land were alright, but Mario 64 is a masterpiece, and here's why. The game looks great. Sure, it's aged a bit since 1996, but I absolutely love all the colorful worlds this game has to offer. Peach's Castle is the best designed hub world ever, having every new world just a couple rooms apart from each other, ensuring an overall great game pace as you never have to spend too much time backtracking between levels, like in Sunshine, for instance. Speaking of the levels, Peach's Castle is magical this time around, with paintings that Mario must jump into to enter new levels, which is handled so eloquently. The gameplay is stellar. Mario, for the most part, runs and jumps exactly where and how I want him to. If I die in this game, most of the time it's my own fault. Most of the time. My only real complaint for this game is that the camera has not aged all too well. The camera system was amazing at the time, especially since this was one of the first ever 3D platformers, but it definitely feels dated. The camera sometimes gets stuck behind random objects, which can occasionally lead to you misleading the distance of a platform, causing you to jump for said platform only to fall to your Italian stereotype death. Thankfully, this is not a frequent occurrence, and even though it occasionally annoys me, Mario 64 is a wonderful game that if you haven't experienced, you must do so immediately. Number 1, Ocarina of Time. I know. Get it all out of your system. Oh, how original. A top 10 Nintendo 64 game list with Ocarina at the top. Yeah, I hear ya, but honestly, I would be lying to myself if I said that this didn't deserve number 1, or that I preferred Majora's Mask more. I loved Majora's, but the effect it had on me wasn't as great because it came after this epic game. Ocarina of Time was the Zelda series' first leap into 3D gaming, and I would say that it was overall a major success. This game holds up really well today due to the charming characters, world, and story. The gameplay is still really fun thanks to the camera system that, unlike Super Mario 64, has aged very well. Sure, it's been updated and improved upon, but it still holds up to this day. If any of you have played Breath of the Wild, I think that you may not find this game as grand and adventurous as I did my first time playing, but that doesn't mean you should ignore this piece of gaming gold. My opinions of the best Zelda game ever made may have finally changed and may continue to change, but that doesn't mean I love Ocarina of Time any less. It's a must play. It is and forever will be timeless. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, consider subscribing as I upload every week. Also, if you enjoyed this video, check out this Breath of the Wild analysis video I did. I talk about why it's better than Ocarina of Time. Yep, I went there. But most importantly, go play some hard games.